Welcome back to this month's Roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters and foremost experts in technology, marketing, brokerage, government policy, capital, construction, and cybersecurity. As always, this is a three-part show: introductions, what's new for each of our Roundtable hosts; Part 2, sector focus. What is the big news or the big shift for this month, and how can you get ahead of your competition? And Part 3, what's happening for next month, where to be, and what to do. I'm Andreas, Senie, founder, CRECollaborative, brokerage owner, and technology growth strategist for both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. Joining me this month is none other than Saul Klein, original real estate internet evangelist, good friend, California native at this point. Rebecca Carlson, founder and CEO, Carlson Integrated, our marketing maven. Anna Maria Kowalik, our director of business development at Inland Green Capital, all things capital and green financing, CPACE. And none other than Chris Abel, Associated Builders Contractors of Connecticut, membership director, and my go-to for all things design, build, and engineering. Darren won't be making it, and Dan Wagner will be joining us for the January 19th show, sector expert interview with Dr. Yoon, the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors. So please tune back in. So, Anna Maria, you're to my right today, just like a Zoom call for those of you that have been on them. What's going on your side of the industry? How are things? Happy 2023.
Well, happy 2023 to you, and I certainly hope it will continue to improve after how it began. So, however, we are still in a very volatile interest climate. And although I have always touted that CPACE is fairly recession-proof, but that doesn't mean, we're totally bulletproof. We are seeing some deals taking longer because the primary lending may be difficult to find for a project, especially in a new construction development scenario. And so although the clients are more and more happy and willing to use CPACE financing, they are finding some challenges with getting additional funding and also getting lender consent for the CPACE financing, which can and cannot be problematic, and it depends by region and on a lot of other different factors. But these are just some of the challenges that kind of put us back a couple of steps, make things take longer, and allow us an opportunity, though, at the same time, to be able to reassess and re-educate and try to, rely on network sources to help, bring these deals to fruition. So I see a slowdown and a kind of a wait and see attitude.
And is it a slowdown and wait and see compared to 12 months ago today, a quarter?
Precisely, yes. I think we were more on a ramping up with deals, at least in our sector, and saw a lot of positivity on the horizon. But given the interest rate volatility since then, certainly it's impacted all kinds of our, all facets of our industry across the board, not just CPACE.
Sure. So finally, construction might be ready to get building and finishing these projects, and now we can't get them funded. Just kidding there, Chris. Nice to see you again. Happy 2023. How are things in the construction world after a little worrisome comments from Anna Maria on the capital side? I thought CPACE was my sure thing, and it still is. It's just going to take a little longer. What's going on in construction?
Well, so at least in our area in the Northeast, things are still moving along. I know a lot of the companies I'm working with are taking advantage of the fact that we haven't really seen too much shift as far as the winter weather so far. So they're trying to, I know a couple companies that I work with that are, we're almost hoping for a little bit of a slowdown so they can kind of use that as their reason for, hey, things are slowing down a little bit. They'll pick back up in the spring, so they can kind of extend their backlog a little bit. But that doesn't seem to be the case from the industry association side of things. We had a really strong end. I saw a lot of people kind of making a move and shifting towards, hey, kind of like Anne Marie was saying, using those networking tools to kind of get deals done and all that sort of stuff. People must have been getting in people's ear about, hey, you should try this. This is a good idea. This is going to get you there. So I saw a really strong end to 2022 and kind of a fast start as far as the industry association side goes, where as soon as a new year comes, it's almost like a gym membership where you go to the gym on January 2nd, January 3rd, January 4th. It gets pretty busy because all of a sudden everyone's going to, change everything that they're doing. I from my side of things, I get a lot of companies coming along and, hey, can you come sit in our 2023 strategy session? Can you come, take care of this? What can we do about hiring? Are there any construction career fairs out there? So I have no shortage of work. So far, the members I'm working with don't seem to, but I could tell that they're a little bit, nervous as to what the end of the first quarter and going into the second quarter are going to bring. If they don't have a strong backlog lined up now. But this is also when a lot of them get quiet, where you start asking questions and they kind of go, oh yeah, no, we're doing well, or yeah, we have this or we have that. And if they aren't giving me exact kind of roundabout backlog numbers, or, oh, we have enough for this or we have enough for that, then from experience, I know that I need to, keep my eyes out for everything I possibly can to try to bring things to the table, because sometimes a $25-30 million job got pushed in my direction last week, and that can literally keep a company afloat and save a company. So I find myself digging deep into my resources and using my networking tools to try to, keep everyone moving in the right direction as best I can.
Well, we've said it many times over, your network is your net worth. That's why we're in the real estate business, growing it and building it. So you're 12 months ago today, you're feeling better for your industry?
In a lot of ways, yes, because I feel like the supply chain stuff, I'm not really hearing much about. The pain points were so prevalent 12 months ago, and they were so vocal about them, that in that sense, I am feeling better about it. But the biggest thing is if you start running into a situation where jobs really aren't getting started, whether it's a funding issue or just there's not anything going on there, then quite frankly, supply chain doesn't matter. How many employees doesn't matter, because you might have people jumping ship and going somewhere where they can stay busy. So in that sense, I'm kind of on the fence. In that sense, I am a little nervous for what the next few months are going to bring. From a bigger scale, from a larger scale, not, can I get the fasteners? Can I get the hardware? Can I get this? Can I get that? I'm having trouble finding plumbers. I have too much work I need my next job to come in the next
people
few
need
weeks.
to commit the uncertainty to go forward.
Small jobs too. I'm seeing a lot of companies, digging into some of the smaller jobs that they probably wouldn't have interest in 12 or even 24 months ago, quite frankly. Oh. But they'll take it.
Well, so which brings us always around to marketing. How is the world spinning it all in 2023? Becca, how are things on the marketing side and the brokerage side? Carlson Brokerage is doing well over there. I've seen some listings go up.
Well, things have been very busy. So we've actually continued in the trajectory of 2022, and it's been a growth period of time for us. And I'm sorry, my cat has decided that he wants to be on the podcast today, which is super awkward. And so
they did it for the Yule log on TV. Yule log with friends. It's okay. So things are on a growth trajectory despite the uncertainty.
Trajectory, and I think that whenever there's any sort of retrenching in any market, people examine marketing. People who may have been really busy working on deals and working through things suddenly are like, oh, I need to start thinking about a little bit of strategy. I need to wrap my messaging around all of the activity that I've been doing and see where I'm building for the future. I actually spent a lot of time and I have just over the past couple of weeks talking about aspirational elements of business, talking about, okay, so you've done all of these things, but where do you want to go? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And it's really fun to be able to pose those questions to business entities, to pose them to individuals who are building their careers, because it takes on a whole different thought pattern versus I'm just my experience versus my experience is accretive to who I am in my growth as a company, as a person. So those have been very key elements of conversations that I've been experiencing again. And we're talking with big entities and with individuals. We all get to spend this time doing a little bit of retrenching and defining who we want to be for the coming year, which is fun.
Well, is it, and redefining or defining who we want to be, is that being hyper selective of what business we're going after? So you've been through a few of these economic headwind periods, and that's what I see is everyone being very selective. They're retooling to go after certain aspects or to double down on things that they know will make it through the uncertainty of financing, smaller deals, whatever, what have you. Car washes, in Saul's case.
It's raining.
Hey, I'm sure there's a special with rain, something you can do. Matter of fact, the car wash used to sell me a rain guard stuff they used to spray on to get the rain to come right off.
Well, I tell you what, in the car wash business for us, the coin-op car wash business, the beauty of it is all the different ways people can pay you today. Where before it was you had to put in dollar bills and then you could get quarters and then that converted to tokens. Now there's different payment systems. There's PayPal, there's credit cards. There's just a number of ways to take money, and that's a real positive thing. But one of the things that I've seen lately is that before I used to be able to kind of figure out where things were going. I could read enough different things and I could get enough of a perspective. But now what I'm seeing is people that I have tremendous respect for in their particular areas are saying different things. And so that produces a greater level of uncertainty. Yep. And then that drives me back to things that I have more control over and things I can understand better, which is local. And so paying more attention to what's going on with car wash, what's going on locally becomes more important to me in this, with all this uncertainty around finance, around construction, around labor, around politics. There's so many things right now that we're uncertain about. And as I look at land use and commercial land use and residential land use and housing affordability and all these different things coming together in 2023, I'm not sure whether it's going to be March or April or May or June before we have a clearer picture. So back to your point, Andreas, that people are going to be more selective. They have to pay more attention. I'm real curious, Beck, into what kind of marketing. This idea of visioning is really a great idea, right? Where do we want to be when we grow up? And that becomes more difficult in this type of marketplace.
Well, now back at what kind of revisioning are we talking about? And Saul, now I'm really concerned. What type of incoherent messaging are you getting? But let's go to the revisioning first. Is it people being hyper selective about what they're selling or the services they offer, or actually reinventing their company?
So I think it's bifold. It's looking back at what they've been doing and doing well, and making sure that the messaging around it is very clear and very concise and very digestible for their audiences. But I'm also
on TikTok. Just kidding.
Oh yeah. I do not have a TikTok page. Yeah. In case anybody's curious, no TikTok for Becca. But I think that then there's this other piece of looking back in your career during different cycles. Have you been in REO receivership? Have those been pieces of your history that you haven't touched in the past several years? But as we know, real estate is cyclical. So do we need to refresh that narrative? Do we need to re-examine contact lists? Do we need to see who where you knew 8 years ago is still in the same job, which is zero? By the way, nobody is in the same job, in case anybody's curious, when it comes to banks in particular, because they dissolved workout units and then they've had to recreate them with different staff members. So there are some strategic pieces that we talk about for this future next part of the cycle that often reflects back to prior parts of a cycle. Certainly when someone's been in the industry for a very long time, you do have evolutions in your business model during traditional cyclical events.
Absolutely. As a brokerage, it's tenant rep leads to landlords lead to investors, right? We focus one after the other. And with strong economic headwinds, businesses have to downsize. Maybe instead of downsizing or vacating a lease, they should go buy a building. There's so many economics at play to be very opportunistic. And that's in the Northeast, at least where I am, everyone is looking for the right opportunity and they are out there. And although I can't speak to CPACE, there are a lot of interesting funding groups coming together. The capital stack on some of the investments we're seeing are creative, to say the least. But the banks seem excited to move forward, obviously, as long as the numbers work and as long as we can get it built.
And they have to be creative to bring them forward. And, which doesn't exclude the opportunity with CPACE, which is, always awesome. In fact, I'd like to address one of the questions or one of the comments basically put in by the audience tonight. One young lady did put forth that CPACE is a more viable financing option than ever and depends on the provider one chooses, established nationwide experience and ability to execute over a variety of CPACE applications, including refinance, retrofit, and new construction, and property types matters. And yes, it most certainly does. And I agree with all of those. And that's what we've been conveying over the last several conversations, monthly conversations that we've been having. But touching on topics from today, and I think what Becca said leads into the next question, has to do with, where do we see then moving from here, into 2023? And certainly, I think doing what one does best and keeping at it and focusing your branding and continuing to go forward despite everything that's happening around you, is probably the best, most solid, way of moving forward. And so I still have every hope and positive thought about CPACE being, a great option in 2023 and moving forward. And so, we're all just going to weather the waves and kind of bring that boat back to shore. So.
And it sounds like keeping your head down and focusing on your business, to Saul's comment, locally, to Becca's comment, as you reinvent. What am I reinventing for? What did I do very well the last time the inventory dried up? How did I build my business last time?
Right.
Similarly, I'm seeing some brokers, myself included, looking at new asset classes. Maybe I'm going to change specialties if I'm a specialist, not a generalist. Are brownfields something that should be? I personally think brownfields, along with CPACE, along with government regulation. I mean, there's huge funds available to redevelop these sites in the center of most towns. Where else do you get that much land with that much access? You can't. But there are concerns, and there's a lot to learn, which is why I surround myself with smart people like you and others, not on the call. But dusting off for new things. I mean, you can't do that in the construction side, but Chris, it sounds like the labor shortage isn't the issue. It's the job shortage at this point, the funding shortage, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean the labor shortage is not gonna. I mean that's always going to be an issue. There's just no way. There's no way around it. If every contractor I talk to needs a project manager. What I actually found interesting was they all need licensed tradespeople. We know that there's not enough plumbers, there's not enough HVAC techs, there's not enough electricians. But in regards, I've had a few of the recruiting and the staffing firms and things of that nature where, there's a lot of headaches there. It's a tough job. It's a tough gig. You're trying to find the right people and the right fit. But at the same time, you need to be able to earn your living. You need to be able to put people that are in front of you into positions. And a lot of these companies are for lack of a better term, desperate enough to say, hey, you know what, send me whoever you got. I'm seeing some of you in those firms, some of the staffing and the recruiting agencies, if they have enough construction background now, some of those people going, you know what, behind the scenes, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a project management certificate. I'm going to take the knowledge that I have, and they're going on and they're going, there's so many jobs out there. I'm the one staring at them every day and instead of trying to find people to fill these jobs, let me just apply. Let me get out there. To Becca's point, if someone didn't have a new job that you knew up until now, check LinkedIn tomorrow and see what happens, because every single day I'm getting notifications. This person either got promoted or they went here or they went there. So I've even seen some of the staffing and recruiting people saying, you know what, I'm might as well put myself out there. It's time for a switch. This is causing me a lot of stress, a lot of strife. I think I have enough knowledge to get out there and really help one of my clients in most cases, obviously. And then it's that relationship side of the job force is just, people really digging in and trying to find out who they know, opening their mouth, letting people know if they're happy or not happy. That's usually the case. I usually get people coming and mentioning something to me, and then I'm able to say, hey, if you're going to look anyway, let's try to keep you within my network and let's try to keep you moving in the right direction. But the labor shortage is not going to just go away just because there's just not enough people, especially on the license side. Tradespeople,
skilled tradespeople, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The
numbers are up for apprentices, so that is good. So.
And the numbers are up for your association. More people looking to network, so that is also good. So I'm hearing some good news all around, which is all good things. No. As far as employees, changing and getting certificates, I have seen a tremendous uptick in certificate programs. People's upskilling, taking the time to upskill in one way or another. So at least in the Northeast, Saul, is same in your industries, everybody upskilling during the downtime. I mean, we've got the 6 months of either I'm being very opportunistic and I'm going to be a hyper sniper about the deals I do, or I'm waiting. But why we shouldn't sit on your hands and wait? That's not good business. So what are they doing? What are you?
Yeah, so I'm seeing more people offering opportunities for people to
upskill,
increase, right, to upscale, and right. So we see that you got all kinds of new things offered to people, marketed to people, and then you got people got more time, so that they'll probably start to take advantage of some of this. And so overall, you should end up with more skilled, more knowledgeable workforce or people in general. And here in California, and across the country, affordability is still a big issue. Mm-hmm. And so how do you make property more affordable? Can you build it cheaper? Right? Well, maybe you can to a degree if you get the right regulation. I don't mean you build it not as strong, not as good as you built it in the past, but maybe you don't have as many parking spaces required per unit, so that helps you bring the affordability down. You make smaller units, you get density bonuses, and so those types of things are available, but you have to go out and look for them. And of course, that comes back to the local difficult issue. Andreas, we had a conversation this morning where I found a property here in San Diego that had it's an Italian restaurant, and a developer bought it. And before, if you bought it and tried to put residential units on it, you might be able to put 25 units on it. But now he's going for like 140 units on this. And because it is within walking distance of mass transit and the density bonuses are available, less parking is then required. It allows you to build more units. You can build higher than you could build before. So those types of things are out there, but you have to look for them. And it's easier to look for them if you see them when you're driving down the street than if there's some place across the country, right?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Google Earth, but yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Driving down the street, identifying. My grandmother flew a plane. That's how she identified. But you're right. And not only are you right, I will put that ahead of brownfields as the biggest opportunity today for those willing to look and find them. There are so many municipalities behind on affordable housing in such dire need. And what most people don't know is when a municipality is behind, you can come in and write your own rules. You can ignore zoning. You can build it as tall as you want to build it. And that's a huge potential profit if you can afford to do it.
Yeah,
and you got to convince the town to get on board in some aspects. Go ahead, Saul.
Yeah, that's a big point. That's the NIMBY movement, right? Not in my backyard. And so what we've got land use changes taking place, and there's always going to be resistance. And over the last 20 or 30 years, that resistance has been powerful and strong. But we've had changes in land use in this country before, and we're going to have it again. And so increased density is part of the future. Less driving is part of the future. And the sooner people figure that out, the better off everybody's going to be. And so that's being pushed by the government. We see funding programs available. We see rebate programs available, density bonuses to give the incentives to people to do this. And then you've got generational shifts where certain people of certain generations really like the idea of not driving as much or being able to walk to where they want to go. And while somebody of a different generation might think that's going to spoil the character of the neighborhood, there are other people that think that enhances the character of the neighborhood.
I loved my hometown. I mean, we had a walking main street, and you could walk and bike and so forth. And now I live in 5 minutes to drive anywhere. So the changes of the neighborhood you point out, those are one of the biggest reasons developments are vetoed, right? You get in front of that town and they're so worried about the spirit of a town changing, not taking into account the jobs it's going to bring and the economic stimulus and the federal funds to fix the roads to get to the town.
Or the obsolete housing stock, right?
Yeah. Sewage or septic and sewer, yeah.
Needs to be rebuilt. Yeah. And this has happened before, right? We haven't lived through it, but the country has gone through these types of land use changes in the past, and it's happening again.
So it's really interesting. It's just really interesting that it went in that direction, because I in my own hometown, I literally listened to for about 2.5 hours at the town hall meeting last night in my own hometown. Just exactly what you're talking about. Like, Saul, you and Andreas could have been two of the people sitting in that meeting having that conversation. Building on swampland type stuff and all different things. I had one reason to listen in, and it has to do more on the school side of things and how close buildings are even put to a school. But the topics that got brought up were really, across the board. And that it's like must see TV. That's what kept me on my phone for 2.5 hours listening to nobody I actually knew, but essentially my neighbors voicing their opinions. So it's definitely interesting that we shifted in that direction, because I'm wondering if both of you happen to be. Yeah, I wonder if both of you happen to be in Connecticut. Saul's like, nope, I'm staying here.
Well, but it's happening everywhere. It's at zoning meetings everywhere. And actually, speaking of zoning meetings and downtime and upskilling, Many of us have volunteered in different areas on different boards. And if you've got 6 months to burn, why not volunteer at your local zoning board, planning and zoning, and see how you can become embedded to grow your network? I mean, that's what we're teaching now in our new boot camp over at EAC to our new agents. Get involved somewhere. Everyone on this call is involved with different charities and such. Is that still true, Anna Maria? Are the
Oh, I
next
have been for a
generation-
long time. I'm kind of on a pause presently, just because I'm taking care of my elderly parents, and that I'm blessed to have them both alive. But it's fairly overwhelming, and so timing is an issue. But I do support financially what I can when I can, and so that's what I'm involved in. But I just wanted to look back just a quick second at some of what was being said about zoning, et cetera. A lot more sustainable types of programming, let's say, being put into zoning with new local laws and recommendations, both for, especially on the electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, and also just various codes needing updated requirements. And so where our particular industry, it never really had certifications per se. There were the lead certifications at the various levels and things that one could get, but now there are more and more certifications becoming available under the sustainability umbrella. So just something to look out for, and some great opportunities for new workforce to get involved in. And, because I've always enjoyed mentoring younger people coming into their career choices. And I think that this is one area that's certainly going to continue to grow. And so it's the place to be.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. The question I was asking is, are you mentoring the next generation during this time? You said you're already out there. You're having to re-educate your clients.
Yes.
Are you now also so at EAC, we're taking the time to train a whole new school of agents, right? Because they've never been through it, and we're using their energy combined with experience to push forward through the next 6 months. So on the CPACE side, it's the same.
Well, we've got a lot of young people now. In fact, there are more real estate degrees that are coming out of universities. And so, many of the graduates from those programs, especially the higher education, are do have a kind of mindset of where they want to go with that real estate background. But there are others who are uncertain. And so as I speak to people, I always invite them to take a look at, down sustainability lane and seeing what they can find. And that I would be glad to help them find resources and connections to be able to decide what's the best route for them.
Andreas, you made a great point about volunteering now.
Mm-hmm.
And participating if you can. Years ago, I volunteered for something here in San Diego called the Mid-City Revitalization Task Force. Now, there was great benefit in participating. It was a city council task force. You didn't get paid anything, but you met all the people that were interested in building things. And so you were in this position, you got to meet people. That helped from the networking perspective. And then the other side of it, you knew what was happening before anybody else did. So you knew of the low interest rate loan programs. You knew about the rebate programs. You saw what properties were eligible for those types of things. And so knowing that, picking up that type of information, at the same time being able to network and do good for the city or for your neighborhood because you're volunteering, I think looking for those types of volunteer opportunities is a good path for people right now.
Well, um, planning and zoning is full where I am, but they do a great job. Shelton's one of the top 10 cities to move to and live in, thanks to a robust development of mixed use and office and Cinto and so forth. And the brokers out here doing a great job. But there are other opportunities to volunteer, and it's funny. I remember when I just started into tech, 2015, formally went into tech, and I was consulting, and I was in rooms that it would have taken me a lifetime to get into. Heads of associations, large institutions, and that those relationships are carried through. So volunteering anywhere and everywhere, showing up. I like the Christmas movies and all of it, but I saw one where the whole HOA gets together and does a big thing for the town and invites everyone in. And I went, wow, every one of those business owners in that town know who to call, and you know everyone on a first name basis. That's hard to replicate, sending out business cards.
Well, that gets back to Becca's point on visioning. So part of your vision should be where you want to go in this particular area, in the volunteering area, and how that might enhance your business.
Becca, I'm curious. We're hosting open house forums. We're bringing in our partners to come in and teach. Talk to us about what CPACE, as an example, anything and everything to help bring in the community. Are your clients doing the same? Is that part of that visioning process?
I haven't seen, I shouldn't say that. I have some clients who are making a concerted effort in relations towards and facilitating education opportunities for their stakeholders, whatever that may be. So that might be clients, but it might be investors. So I have a handful of them that have added that to their marketing plans for this year, which I fully support and I'm very excited about, because the stories are so much more enriching when they're told in a physical environment, for instance, or even a podcast where there's a strong panel, something like that, where you can really touch on all of the different facets of their businesses and educating what they're doing. I'm very excited to see those sorts of pieces come through. And I did want to put in a little plug here, of course, for the Northern Illinois Commercial Association of Realtors, which is near and dear to my heart. And I have been honored to be on the board for many years. I went through all of the executive board positions, and I'm delighted to just be a plain old normal board member. And all I have to do is not get all of the executive board emails, and I still get to interface with our membership, which is very, very important to me. And I would say that in addition to aiding in my career, it's been unbelievably beneficial to learn how the brokerage community is perceiving changes in the industry, to talk about best practices, and certainly to help if there's things that I know how to do that they may not know how to do. I love having those opportunities. And so the Northern Illinois Commercial Association of Realtors, NICAR, is been a very important part of my life, and I'm continuing to volunteer there. And we're always trying to engage people to spend this time. Since you guys are talking about this quiet time, we are actively working on filling committees, because it's a great time for it, because people do often have a few extra minutes on their hands where they can serve and be part of the visioning of an organization. So the visioning practice doesn't just apply to individuals and companies, but also to an organization.
And I can vouch for both Rebecca and the NICAR Association, because they've invited me to speak on CPACE, and it's been wonderful. And I can see Becca's personal passion for the organization and doing the work. So I am a testimony for all of the above.
Well, wait, while you're talking about that, I'll throw this in, that I truly believe in participating in your association, be it commercial, be it residential, be it construction. And when I first got involved, I went to a meeting many years ago to they used to have luncheons, believe it or not, right?
They
And
still
people would
do.
go to these luncheons. Yeah, we'd go to this luncheon and we had a speaker. And I remember walking out of that meeting and saying, you know what? I want to serve as a member of this board of directors. And I decided in the parking lot that day, and I took about 15 of my agents with me. I said, I want to be the president of that organization. And it took about 7 years, and I was the president of that local association. And I got to participate at the state level, and I got to participate at the national level. And I told our chief executive, at the time they called them association executives, our staff, I was the volunteer. I told our staff guy, I said, I want to volunteer, and I want to turn my volunteer efforts into a multi-million-dollar company. And so and how do you do that? Through networking and through visibility and through helping people and teaching people. And sure enough, we were able to do that. And it goes right back to being in that parking lot that day at that meeting saying, I see lots of good things happening here, and I want to participate, and I want to help, and I want to meet new people, but I do it with an intention, and there's nothing wrong with having an intention. And my intention is I want to lead this organization because I know more value will come out of that being in leadership. Like Becca, you participated at all these different, there's value that comes from participating at that level. So congratulations. I think it's great. And more people need to understand this. Often I hear people say, well, why would I do that? Those are my competitors.
No, they're your partners. They're
your partner.
your partners. Everyone in real estate is your partner. You might compete on a deal, but otherwise they're your partner.
I would say a small piece of advice, underlying tone coming from what Saul was just saying, what everyone's just saying. It's just coming, especially if it's a slower time, especially if you have those minutes, start coming from a place of yes. And that's kind of what that's what I did. A couple of years ago, I was always kind of stuck in that spot. Like, why would I do that? Kind of like what Saul was just mentioning. And then kind of turned around and started coming from that place of yes. And I'm starting to see when I started with ABC, I didn't know really anything about trade associations, any of that sort of stuff. It was there, but I didn't know anything about it. But as soon as I started coming from a place of yes, I'm starting to see that ladder climb and starting to see those little things like Becca and like what Saul you were talking about. And, that's how I ended up in a treasurer role with the SMPS group here in Connecticut. Any treasurer for ABC is usually a CPA, and usually from a pretty high level firm. So my vision of a treasurer was two things. One, the kid who did it in high school, a long time ago. And two, the ones I saw on the board who were like, the partners at Markham and the partners at some of these big firms. So my first thought was, why would I do that? Why would I and then I said, you know what, let me talk to a couple people, former treasurers. They said, no, you could do it. It's not as intense as some of the other situations. And then, saying yes has put me in a spot that I wouldn't have been in.
The show.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, that's another thing. My first thought was like, "What podcast? What are we doing here? What's the situation?"
Yeah, I said the same thing about Twitter.
Yeah.
And other places.
So I like that idea. If you come from a place of yes and just, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? The roof isn't going to collapse on you because you spoke up at a committee meeting and brought up something that they had talked about maybe a couple months earlier when you weren't around. Someone's going to say, hey, this person's in the right frame of mind because they're talking about what we were talking about. And they'll find the lane for you.
Visibility, being visible in your market and marketing yourself to get more business. It's you were talking about yes. And it's funny, there are some deals that I've pushed out that I did not think would be yeses. And they are. It doesn't hurt to try. At the end of the day is really what I'm saying. And I am super hopeful for 2023 for a good reason, because everybody on this call is talking about all the time they have. I do not have any extra time right now. So I am clearly in the wrong state. The brokerage side. There's just a lot going on. And that all being said, car wash aside, marketing aside, brokerage aside, how are you feeling in general as a community coming into this first quarter compared to a year ago? We're It's 15 minutes, part 3 of the show. What is the biggest takeaway you want to give to the people tuning in for their business, for them personally? It's been a long 24, 36 COVID, post-COVID period. Here we are today, hopeful. I'm hopeful. Anna Maria?
I'm very hopeful, and I know that the future is green. And basically, you know, we build on our past successes, and so there's a lot there. There's more coming. Even if it takes a little bit longer, that's okay. And just because it takes a little bit longer, to your point, Andreas, it's not that we're not busy. We're very busy.
Of course.
In fact, don't have enough time to go around. But
ask a busy person to do something.
Right. And that's the key always. That's been my mantra all my life. Raising 4 kids and as a single mom at one point and everything, believe me, you got to juggle and there's a lot going on all the time. So absolutely. But definitely looking forward to 23 as surpassing. I think by the end of the year, we'll surpass this past one.
Better than 2022. Looking forward.
I think so.
Chris?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's a piece of advice out there is we talked about it a little bit earlier, but kind of staying the course, staying relevant. Dig a little deeper. Join something. We were just talking about another. We talked a little bit about the mentoring, pushing your young talent. If there's young talent around you, to be better. And become stronger, whether that's professional development on an outside, perspective, or if it is, a matter of mentoring, but also having those conversations with younger people. I had a great one today, and let them almost reverse mentor you during a conversation a little bit and hear what they have to say and see what's out there and find out what's, what might help you out. And make sure that, especially in the construction side of things, it can get pricey. It can get, a little bit daunting. But using technology as your friend. I mean, so many companies are finally realizing that I have to really dig into some of these software programs. I really have to get my systems talking to one another, because if they don't, someone's going to sneak in and they're going to be able to get that bid in faster, get that bid in with a little more oomph behind it. They're going to be able to push themselves a little bit harder in their marketing side of things, all that sort of stuff. So embracing technology and going back to what we've talked about forever, embracing data and just, use all those things to stay relevant. Don't disappear on anybody, because it's, it takes a long time to build something up, but all it takes is one big strong win sometimes to blow something away.
Don't let technology fade you into the background, and at the same time
much.
have it push you to the foreground almost.
Yeah, you're not going to get young talent in the industry. I mean, you're not going to get young talent if you don't have some technology to some bells and whistles to show them, hey, we're on the forefront. And that's even in the field. That's even for the tradespeople that are out there.
Yeah, I've seen some really cool prop tech construction trade stuff, sensors and hats, boots. There's a lot out there. And I mean, that even goes back to visioning and what your company is. Are you tech forward? Are you a place to employ people? I mean, Becca, that's your world, visioning and marketing. What are your thoughts?
So although our particular company has not slowed down at all, I do recognize that the transactional brokers are projecting 6 to 9 months of a little bit more quiet. And that's on the investor side and on the transactional brokers within my market that I've spoken with. They're just expecting it just a little bit of the market to right itself a little bit, because it's just been a little bit too unsteady. That being said, I think we all have opportunities, and something that I didn't have the bandwidth to consider last year, 12 months ago, versus something that I am considering right now, is who can I help? Like, where can I contribute? What is my voice in this? We ended our year with our newsletter at the end of December saying it's okay to opt out of the new year, new you. I don't think that everybody has to do a full reinvention. I don't think that there needs to be always dramatic pieces that change. I think the consistency really does matter. But I think that there is this piece of us that sometimes forgets that we can go back and see what's worked before. We can forget to go back and look at the fundamentals, forget to do that because there are so many things coming at us that we think we have to respond to, that we're being reactive and not as maybe as proactive of defining where we want to be in our situation. Life is happening to us, and so we're responding to it. The market's happening to us. The economy is happening to us. But we can stop, take a moment, do a little bit of reflection and visioning for where we want it to take us for the future. So I think those are important characteristics to think about. And I'm excited in 2023. I think that we're going to continue to grow. I think that our clients are going to continue to grow, and we're going to keep serving people who do incredible things in their businesses. And I love that. I love being able to make introductions to people who need to talk CPACE with someone, to Anna Maria. Like, oh my gosh, it's my favorite. I've got to find some clients who want to talk about construction in the East Coast so that Chris and I can like work together. Like, and Saul knows everything in the whole wide world. So I'm going to ask him all my Realtor.com questions really soon here because somebody called me and yelled at me that something they read on Realtor.com wasn't correct. And I was like, I didn't even know I was on there.
Well, that was going to go back to intentional and volunteering. Saul, you went door to door way back when and helped build the first MLS, really the largest distributed network for listings. You've seen a lot, you've been through a lot, you've volunteered a lot in different areas and made $1 billion company once or twice. So where do you see it?
Well, so I want to jump into the
Realtor.com. I knew he would.
This is a pet peeve. This is really a pet peeve of mine because I was there. I had to create the acetate overhead slides to convince residential real estate brokers to put their listings on the internet. I sat in on those meetings. I was the key player in all of that. When I get people today telling me that's not how it happened, it drives me nuts. And so you're right. Lately, I've been taking pieces where I've explained this 1,000 times to people to explain why are we here today? Why are we in this position today? What happened along the way that drove us to that point? And I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that subject. And I have got a garage full because I kept everything of documentation. I call them artifacts, where I can back up everything that I've said about this. And so I'm glad to talk about it. But it brings us to this point, and that is necessity. And so what we need to look at, I think, is necessity. And so COVID and the last couple years and the economy have created new necessities. And if we find those necessities, we'll find opportunity. And that's where we should focus. So if we think we don't have anything to do right now, take a look and you'll see all kinds of new necessities. Again, Andreas, we were talking about vacancies in office buildings, repositioning office buildings. What happens in Washington, D.C. when government workers don't have to go into the office? All of a sudden, nobody's in these office buildings. You know who else is affected? All the people that have businesses that serve lunch to all those people in those buildings. And so there are new necessities that will create new opportunities, but they're not going to fall into your lap. You have to take the time to look for them. I'm kind of down on the other side of this. I think people are going to be surprised at some of the negative aspects of where the economy is going. And they're going to be surprised. The other day I was talking to a very knowledgeable individual that was talking to me about a $270 million portfolio 5 years ago, just got sold for $70 million. And so that was somebody's problem, but that was also somebody's windfall. That's right. And so you're going to find those things if you're looking for. So what is the necessity in the marketplace? And then how can we deliver around that? Where's the opportunity?
I love it. Necessity, intention with vision, and opportunity. It's the basics all over again. I like that $70 million deal.
You'd like a piece of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, well, I love that it was the sticker price was 200 and he said 70 and wait a minute, it happened. you never know, as long as the deal makes sense. And that's why you need the right team to figure that out and put it together. It's 6:55. It is our first show in 2023. We've got a great lineup this year, great hosts that I'm blessed to sit alongside, experts in their own right, in their own areas. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. I want to thank the team here. I want to thank Mr. Mendoza behind the scenes, our production. Mr. Mendoza, could you put up how to reach everyone? And as we're doing that, I do want to remind all our listeners to come back on the 19th, Thursday, for the sector interview with Dr. Lawrence Yoon, the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors, to hear firsthand about the economic headwinds. But regardless of those headwinds, as you heard it here first, or as you've heard it here many times, focus on your local market, focus on the necessities that you can solve to build business, and then come back for next month, first Thursday. This show is available everywhere you get your audio and across all major social media channels. Do like, rate, and review us. It really does help. And thank you again for tuning into this month's roundtable and being a subscriber to this show. With that, thank you. Have a great month.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.